Welcome to the Pricing for the Planet Week, day 3. So we just talked about, innovative business models, how you can rethink your entire value proposition. And, we wanted to kind of like do a step back and clearly understand, what's behind, what are the prerequisites of doing such a big transformation of your business model. And one big thing I wanted to cover with Claude was really to talk about this concept of like data and baseline. So that will be kind of like the topic of discussion for this webinar between Claude and myself. But first, a huge thank you, Claude, for being here. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, Whisper. Thanks for having me today. So I'm Claude Pignon. I'm part of Carlisle consulting company. I'm working on after sales and sustainability topic. I spent my last decade working at Accenture, working on after sales topic, working on sustainability for our industrial client, both on industrial side and both on engineering and understanding what is their context, their pain point, and the topic that you just described is perfect because this is indeed what we've seen, that there's a lot of good intention and good initiative and goodwill, but often we lack the baseline and the data to support the goal, the purpose that we want to set.
Yeah, and that's one reason we are super excited to have you. I think you are bringing a very interesting point of view for this event. And again, this event is called, sustainability, what to do, where to start. I think we gave a lot of content, but I think this one is crucial. And I think this one is a big prerequisite. So maybe let's go into kind of like the details of that. So Claude is, so like I'm a company, I want to start this transformation around sustainability. So what should I do? Where I get the data, how can I start, like help us.
The example that I used to take is the one that speaks a lot to me, and I guess a lot to many people, is the example of going on a diet. So if you go on a diet, the first thing you do, you jump on a scale. You jump on a scale, you measure, this is where I am. Then you set your goal, you say, this is where I want to be. I want to be leaner, I want to be lighter, I want to be stronger, whatever. So this is what you first want to know, where you are, where you want to go. Second topic would be, okay, so what is currently my intake? Intake would be what is my impact on the environment if I make the parallel to the company. So you need to understand where are the hot point in terms of CO2, of waste, of water, whatever, and you need to understand what you are doing wrong. Are you emitting too much waste, too much CO2, etc., etc.? And then you need also to understand what is the baseline. So, what is the baseline of your environmental impact? What is the baseline of what you how you impact the environment when you produce? I used to take the example of spoons, of pens, whatever it is. What is your baseline impact when you are producing that on a regular basis? And this is the same for the diet. Huh? I mean, this is what you consume on a daily basis in terms of carbohydrate, protein, and so. We are not here to speak about diets, but this is to make the parallel. So you need to understand where you go, where you start, where you want to go, and what is the baseline of emission, the baseline of impact that you have on the environment.
I like this metaphor because I think that's so true. And again, I think coming back to what we discussed, right before this conversation, we talked a lot about, like going into servitization, shifting your business model, creating like a linear, a circular business model. And I think a lot of companies are kind of scared and they are like, well, that sounds so complicated. And sometimes they try to leapfrog to become, like a hugely advanced company in terms of sustainability, and they fail. And they're like, what happened? And I think your story about, well, what happened? It's you try to jump before, learning how to walk. And I think the data and creating this baseline, it's really this first step of like, like you need to be smarter on your business. And again, it's a concept that we're using a lot at Pricing for the Planet, which is we need to keep in mind like 99% of the companies are coming from an industrial era time concepts. So all those concepts that we're using are from the 19th century. And then this concept of like tracking, understanding your value proposition, having the full visibility end to end of your full value chain, it's kind of new. It's a new way of thinking. And I think the approach you are talking about, it's really kind of like, how you start this full transformation. So, Claude, maybe do you have like an example of like company who started that? What were the challenges? How can they, what they did? What were the mistake they've done? Like the audience should avoid.
What you mentioned is trying to leapfrog and to be all of a sudden the best, trying to walk and to be the best printer in the world before knowing how to work. That's a great example indeed. This is what we see. What we need also to understand, and I think this is quite clear, that what is pushing for sustainability at the moment, this is external pressure from consumer, external pressure also from the regulators, namely CSRD. So the CSRD requires some data to feed the extra financial reporting. It existed before. It will be enforced and reinforced by CSRD. And at that moment, it was based on high-level calculation, high-level invoice, high-level metering, reading. That's it. So you just need, because if you take all the data from the CSRD, what applies to somebody on the shop floor, and I will focus a bit more on the shop floor, this is very simple. In fact, this is just electricity, water, pollutant, and that's it. I mean, this is very waste, and this is very, very limited. This is four physical measures, more or less. There is some complexity in it. Is it green energy? Is it nuclear energy? Is it fossil fuel energy? Whatever. But in the end, this is energy. So you need to measure that on the shuffle. So this is very, 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 very simple. So what I want to say is that we just have for the moment a reading at very high level say, based on meters, on reading, and that's it. Doesn't help you to measure exactly your impact. So this is something that we see that we just do that and we just spent a lot of effort to fill just the extra financial reporting and just to be compliant with the regulation. But it doesn't help you to understand first what is your impact and how to reduce it. A key example of that, and there is some manufacturer that started to implement. I want to decrease the light, and because in many cases HVAC and light have a huge impact on the energy consumption, obviously, and they just want to reduce the impact, and they say, okay, I'm going to decrease the lighting, I'm going to decrease the temperature, but what is the outcome of that? Do you know exactly how much energy you are going to gain or to reduce by decreasing the temperature by 1, 2 degrees? It will depend highly on the temperature outside. It will depend highly also on the production rate that you have inside. If you have a drop in production, maybe you are going to consume less, but this is also linked to the decrease in temperature inside the building. So you need to be able to contextualize and to understand what is your baseline again, and what is the real impact of the measure that you are putting in place. And this is a difficulty for the industrial client, that they are taking information that are unrelated to production, and they are putting in place some good initiative from which it's fairly complicated to get the real benefit and to measure it.
Yeah, that super super interesting, and I think a lot of companies are missing this point. I mean, we get a lot of feedback about CSRD is useless, it's an additional cost, it will kill my business, and I think it's very refreshing to have someone saying, you know, I think you will have to do it anyway, and that's interesting because we see a lot of US based company actually using CSRD and like expecting some or doing something very similar to what the European or EU based company are doing, regardless of regulation. They don't need to do it, but they understood that that's how you start this kind of transformation. And that would be kind of like, what would be your recommendation? You are a US based company, or you're like an Asia based company. Would you advise them to mirror CSRD, or like how would like what would be your advice for them?
That's a very good question. In terms of transformation of the company, I think that the regulation is a big push in the back for the company to move forward. And it is forcing the company. It will have a cost because you are implementing new regulation, you are going to comply, you need to implement new stuff. But you will have new costs such as OSHA in the US, such as safety and regulation in the workplace, such as forgotten name, but vacation for employees. It is a cost. Doesn't mean it is bad, not necessarily. It is a cost. So it means that it is going to be a cost, but you have to consider that as also a benefit. Okay, and this is why if you just retrieve data for CSRD just for the sake of reporting and for the sake of having looking good on papers, which has other benefits with the financial investors, with the public relation and the customer claims and so on. So this is also good benefits on that topic. But I think that we have to find the value in this by just having the right data from the shop floor and being able to contextualize it, being able to understand what is the baseline and put in place some real measures so that the company will be able to have something that you can activate from the CSRD to measure the impact. In fact, they need to replicate, and this is my point of view, to replicate what exists on financial controlling, but for environmental controlling. They have a lot of information in place and a lot of data that are coming from the shop floor from financial controlling, and we need to duplicate that to be able to measure the industrial environmental cost of production.
And I think while we were prepping for this conversation, I think you mentioned something very interesting and close to our heart at Pricing for the Planet, which is actually, if you start, tracking that and taking good decision, being sustainable is becoming a way to be cost effective or generate more value. Could you explain a little bit more this concept? Because that's our mantra. It's like we should stop, like, create an opposition between being sustainable and making more money. And I think you have a bunch of examples in this space.
Yes, indeed. So, in fact, when I want to very simplify things, I would say that sustainability is a bit more like lean. And in many cases, when you have a solution that comes from lean manufacturing or whatever, it is in fact environmentally efficient, but that's quite the same, in fact. So being able to make more profit, this is done through the fact that if you have the good practice and you can demonstrate, you can implement something that is auditable, you can feed a digital product passport that say that you are going to use only green energy, you are going to be 99% recyclable materials in your production, and you can track everything. You have a good ESG track, kind of. That's good for selling more and best. So this is not only a question of selling more, but this is a question of the cost of not doing it, because everyone is going to do it. So if you don't do it, you will have to suffer the cost of not doing it. And then on the other side, if you want to reduce the cost, well, using less energy is a cost reduction. This is something that you need also to understand. That there's different way to spare cost, to spare energy. But if you just look first at the data again, and you try to decrease the amount of energy that you use for each product that you produce, this is the first step. If you manage to understand what is the real value and you convert this real value into environmental value, this is also a cost decrease.
And did you see? I love the story, and I think that's very refreshing to hear. now I would be the devil advocate. It's like, do you see from the ground or on the ground like savings big enough to justify kind of the investments, or is it like a you have to look at it from a 10-year point of view, or is it like there is such saving that actually you break even from like year one, or 6 months or something like that?
It depends usually on the type of measure that you are going to take. So if you just first look at data and you use production data and energy data, and you try to decrease, for example, or to increase the machine downtime, or to adapt more the machine downtime to your production rate, or to adjust the temperature. There was a case in you have anodizing bath where you have a specific temperature to respect. If you try to adjust that to the external temperature to match that with the weather forecast and so to make sure that you have the right temperature, you don't stop the machine too soon so that you do have to warm up a lot the big bath because you have big production bath that is coming up. That for the moment is a domain of expert and it's not really based on data. So if you manage to use the data to manage that, that's good, right? And this is, I won't say this is, there is no cost, but this is very minimal. You might need to equip a bit the machine or shop floor with some sensors and so, but that's fine. If you need to change completely an oven to spare some energy, this is a completely different scenarios. And in between, you have the small compressors because we had the example where the compressor has been set to fixed ratio, and so you use a lot of energy with that. So if you can use variable frequency drive (VFDs) to to set this, that's fine. You can adjust the compressor to your production and so. So there is different level. First one will be what I can call a quick win. And if you change an oven, this is completely different. You need to finance that. So this is also a completely different process because you need to have financing partners for that.
Yeah, and I think we have actually a couple of like discussion about cost of capital and this approach like green finance, green banking, where you can really actually combine the type of work that you are doing with like external financial partners and get cheaper kind of like cost of capital to finance your transformation. That's another topic that we won't cover here, but I think it's interesting that you are mentioning that. But at least what I will remember, and I think that's super important for the audience, is that there is a case. We're not saying that every company will kind of like break even on year one by just making good decisions around sustainability. But I think it's worth exploring that because based on your experience, there is a break even at some point. We're not saying it's 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, but there is a break even point where you are kind of like turning around this transformation and making this transformation like generating more value than the cost of doing this transformation.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, and it is really dependent on the type of industry you're in. So if you have a very energy intensive industry such as metal industry, obviously the break even will be faster, but the investment will be huge, massive, especially if you need to change some furnace or whatever. So this is very complicated. This is very different. So from a general standpoint, yes, you will have a break even, but the idea also behind that is to be able to build a kind of system that allows you to baseline your impact, measure it, being able to measure the real impact of any improvement that you implement on the shop floor, and use all this data to aggregate and to feed the reporting and the extra financial reporting, CSRD, whatever, but also to feed the management performance. So that when you have this stream that comes from the shop floor up to the management at different steps, could be a production line, could be the plant, could be a business unit, could be the board. Then you are able to say, okay, my objective would be to be minus 50% CO2 by X year. So you know how to 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 break that to each business line, to each product, and so and so and so. And you can even create some ratio such as CO2 over margin for specific product and make some decision. Do I want to stop that product? Do I want to continue that product? You can go up to that part.
Interesting. And so one question, wanted to have your opinion. So what we see more in the IT space, we see this like green ops concept emerging, where you are taking your IT decision based on like CO2 emission and not just cost. And very often we see actually the two are actually very close. So that's very interesting. Do you see already in the like industrial world where you have the same concept about you manage your factory with kind of like a green cap? It's like, do you see new business practices or new factory processes or approaches where you either have one KPI only and it's sustainability, or you have two KPIs, which costs and sustainable KPI or sustainability related KPI?
Yes and no. The few examples I've seen, this is not that clear. They won't say that they are going full for money and just managed by the money, because at least you can't say that. You can do it, or it could happen, but you can't really claim that. And you can't, on the other side, just go sustainability only without looking at the margin, or the gross margin. So it's very complicated. The joke that we used to have is that on top management, as you are in PR, and so you have green initiative and so and so. And when you go down the hierarchy a bit and you go to the shop floor and the operations, the guy said, "That's green, that's nice, huh? But I've just been asked to produce more with less, and to increase the margin." So it's I won't say that it is that split, but it's kind of complicated for now, because in many cases you don't have that break even that fast. So it's very complicated for the moment. This is what I've seen.
Okay, yeah, super. And maybe at some point we will see that emerging. But it was interesting to see this like green ops emerging, and it emerged very fast. I think it's very interesting. But
Yeah, at some point you have to. And this, I've seen that, and I've heard that story, that if at some point your production is blocked because you are missing parts, because you are missing crucial components, if the components have to fly by a dedicated plane, they will fly by a dedicated plane, because money-wise, and I can't really blame the industrial client, and this is absolutely the position. It's too easy to judge. But if your production is blocked, it costs you 1 million a day, you are going to get a cargo plane and get the part that you need from whatever it is in the world to get it shipped here. And again, you have to do kind of arbitrage between, okay, what is the real cost on environment with that, and what is the real cost money that I'm losing every day, right? And maybe you can find also that at some point there's people that are going to work, that are using their car, that are going to produce nothing. So we can also have this question, and this is again a question of, we are not able at the moment to measure the real impact of a plant that is not running, in fact.
yeah, and I think it's coming back. It's kind of a full circle, because we are back to this concept of you need the data, so you need to progress in terms of like simulation. And I think I'm talking a lot, when I do talks about AI in sustainability. It's always the same response, which is AI is giving us, and the underlier foundation of AI is data. So I think with data and AI, you can really have the power to create those complex simulation and start. I mean, scope three. There is no way we will do scope three without the right technology, and we can put this bucket of AI is so big, we can say AI, but it's technology. But I think AI, the enabler, giving you the capability to really model, calculate, anticipate, your CO2 emission, your scope three, your scope two, your scope one, etc., etc. So I think your point is coming back to, our first, the opening conversation that we had, which is start with data, start with baseline. One thing before the end of this webinar, I wanted to talk about claims. I think you mentioned that a couple of minutes ago, and I think you have an interesting point of view on claims, right?
Yeah. So in fact, in any case, we have product claims. So when we say claims, he's not being angry is not being angry at a product or at a customer service. When I say claim is I'm claiming that my product is vegan. I'm claiming that my product is BPA free, and so and so. So we have this claim, and it's the biggest one, the biggest topic on this is about the battery passport, because the battery passport is a part of the digital product passport. The regulations are upcoming, and we know that the battery manufacturer have to be compliant with that. So I think that data again, we need to be able to retrieve the data to feed this kind of digital product passport, which is really a passport in which you can put whatever you want. There is a part that would be mandatory by the regulation, cobalt, lithium, nickel, and so for the battery, for example, the producer, the origin, the fact that there is no misconduct in the production, and this kind of topic is emerging in exists already in cosmetics, for example. When you have some stuff that are vegan, you have some products that are animal cruelty free, and so and so. Well, carbon neutral, if that exists at some point, that kind of stuff, or recycled material, etc., etc. And I think this is really important that in the trade of data that we use to feed that digital product pattern, this is something that needs to be auditable, because at some point it will be audited. So this is another case for the foundation, another case to add to the data, because it can also feed this kind of digital product passport. This is also linked to something very different and far from sustainability, the traceability. If you are able to track the different products and to imagine your track and your data trade, such as Matryoshka, the Russian dolls inside, you will be able to identify where you can have default in your production chain or in your supply chain. So all of these come together as a nice piece for quality, for manufacturing, for sustainability. And I believe that the data should fit this kind of digital product passport. You have the envelope, which is the product passport. And inside, this is the data that you feed in. And in fact, you can go even further than regulation, depending on the product claims that you want to show.
Claude, thank you so much. I think that was really eye-opening, and I'm sure the audience, will appreciate this kind of like expertise. So thank you so much for
Welcome.
the yeah. So for the audience, so that's the end of day three. Innovative business model. I'm glad we were able to add this kind of like webinar. That was not on the agenda, and then we got last minute opportunity to do it. So again, thanks for your flexibility, Claude. Very valuable stuff. I'm telling the audience, see you tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll talk about data, but very different type of data. We'll talk about green premium, and we have very interesting, guests. We have a partner from BCG. We have someone from Schneider Electric. So, I cannot wait for you to discover what they have to say about this concept of green premium. And again, huge thank you for your time and commitment, and stay well.
Thank you.